Good afternoon.
To random similares de uno. Yes.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is Said Abdikani. I'll be the one to take in charge of the web development class for day 2. Mr. Daniel is not around today, so I'll be the one to take in charge today. Okay, let's wait for like 5 minutes to see if other people is going to join us before we start today's class. Sorry, for those available now, are we all available during the day 1? Mr. Olakunle Joseph, Mrs. Josephine, Mr. Ezekiel.
No, no, I'm not.
I'm
Okay.
not available, but I watch the
Okay.
The recording was very blur.
Okay. The recording was very blur.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I think that is your settings. You have to see your settings because the recording. So,
No, I told the person that sent me the video, he said they are working on it.
okay.
or the one I watched, there's no issue with it. Anyway,
All right. We take note of that and we get back to you for the day 1 recording. Probably send you the a good quality of the video. I think they was trying to compress the video to a smaller size. I think that during that process, that's when the video quality got reduced. So I learned you've talked about HTML in the first day. We talk about what is HTML, what HTML stands for, and we talk about the DOM structure, which the HTML structure, how the HTML structure looks like, and the building block of HTML. That was what was discussed last week. And HTML formatting elements, the elements that are used in HTML, and HTML comments, HTML styling, and HTML headings, which is the H1 to H6, was also discussed last week. So going to the paragraph, on how to set a paragraph using the P tag, P element, and you should note every element has a opening and a closing tag for HTML. And we also talk about the break tag and HR tag. Sorry, not element has the opening tag and closing tag. Some element only has an opening tag. For example, is the break line and the horizontal line, which is the BR and HR. That was talked about last week. And they talk about the HTML anchor tag. Mr. Daniel made mention of the anchor tag. which is the A element, which is used to link from one page to another. And how to set your image in HTML using the img tag was also discussed. And I was told you were giving an assignment last week. Were you able to do that? So how many of us submitted the assignment? Okay, I think it's only Mr. Rahim Alegbe that is actually okay. Mr. Ezekiel too. So today, I think we've wait enough. We're going to start with the HTML table today. So let me share my screen. Sorry. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen now? Okay. So today, without wasting our time, since we've talked about the basic structure of HTML and how we can start our HTML using the doc type elements. So today we're starting with the table, HTML table. So in HTML table, I hope, are we all familiar with Microsoft Word? Have you heard about Microsoft Word? And in Microsoft Word, there's a section that you can use to create table in Microsoft Word. You can also do that in HTML using an HTML element called the table element. So to start creating a table in HTML, we have the structure, the HTML structure, which I don't need to explain, and I believe Mr. Daniel has done that. The HTML opening tag, the head, the meta tag, the closing head. Then we have the body of our content. So to start creating an HTML table, we have the what? The table element, which is used to indicate we are trying to create a table in HTML. An HTML table is used to display table in tabular form, which is in rows and column. In every table, we must have, or there is always a rows and column, and that's what's made up a table. So you can have as many rows and columns in a single table. So to create a table, this element has defined a table. It is telling our browser we are trying to create a table. So to create a table, what is it called? Rows and column. There is another element we can use with the help of, we have the tr, which means the table rows is used in creating the table rows, because like I said earlier, a table is made up of rows and columns. So in order to have our rows, we use the tr element, which is called table rows. And we have what we called the td also, which is called the table data, which made up of the columns. The tr stands for the table row, while the td is meant for the table column. And the meaning of td is what we call table data. And there is another element which we have as th. In every table, there is always a table head that defines what will be inside that columns. Let's say for a table that has, let's say a user's table, in a user's table, we are going to have what we call the first name, last name, email, phone number. So under first name, we have all user first name underneath the first name. The last name, we have all users first name. So the first name, last name, email are what we call the table head. So to define a table head, we have the th elements, which is used to define the table head. After creating the table row, which is the tr, the next thing we needed to create is what? The th, because the table head comes first before the table data. So we have, let's say this table head is meant for first name. So we have another table head, which is last name, another table head, phone number. So we have three table head, which is the first name, last name, and phone number. So let's preview this on the browser to see the results. Of what will be shown. Now we have the first name, the last name, first name, last name, and phone number, which is the table head. So for each table head, there used to be table data. So the first table data we are having after the table head will be the word. That's the first name. Let's say user's first name, which means this table head is going to be, this TD, table data, is going to be under the first TH, which is the first name. So the next TD we'll be having will be what? Let's say user's last name, which is going to stay under the table head last name. Then the last TD we having what? Phone number of the user. So this is the phone number of the user. So if you're having three table heads, you must also have three table data. So the number of table head you have must be the number of table data you are going to have. So to preview this on the browser, you're having, okay, sorry, we need to ramp up this. After creating the first TR here, which is the table row, which means this TH is going to be in a row, and the next what? Table data, we also have to be in another row. So our table data will be in between what? The table rows. So if you refresh our browser, we are going to have user first name under first name, user last name will be under user last name, and the phone number will be under phone number table head. So this is a table row. This user's first name, user last name is in a table row, while this th table head is another row also. You can see there's a difference in the styling of the table head and the table data. The table head is in bold, is in strong element, is using bold, while the table data is ordinary text, which is telling us this as default, all table head are used to be in bold letters, while table data will be the ordinary text, which is going to represent the content, the order each of under each table head. So any table head, any table data we created will be under the first name. So you can also give our table data border in order to indicate. You can set a border for our table You can see it has been categorized. We have the user first name under the first name, user last name under last name, and we have the phone number under the phone number table head. Are you guys following up? Okay. Are we continue? So we can also have another, let's say we want to have another table another table data. You have to create another rows because each table data must be in a different row. So to do that, you have to create another TD, which means, let's name this second first name. Another TD, second last name. So let's try to preview this on the browser. You can see we have second first name under the first name columns. We have second last name under the last name columns. And because we didn't define the third table data for the third rows, so this is having an empty column, which means in every data we created is going to be under the first table head. The first table data you have in this row will be under the first table head you have in this row. The second table data you have in this row will be under the second table data you have in this row. Same as the third row also. So if we define the third words, so if you created the phone number for the third TD, you are going to have a data also under the third columns, which is the phone number column. So that's about the table. So we have many attributes, we have many elements that is used within a table. So we have the caption, the call group, columns, T body, and T head, as many as possible. We have them for the table. So, and also we can also style our table using the CSS for table styling. Though we are not yet in CSS, but this just be like an introductory part to CSS, just because we want to style our table. You know, this is an HTML styling. The border set to 1 year is what we call HTML styling. This is not a CSS styling, it's an HTML styling. So in order to create a styling for our table, we can use let's use an internal CSS, because we have different ways we can write our CSS. We have the inline CSS, we have the internal CSS, and we have the external CSS. But for a quick one, we'll be using an internal CSS just to style up our table. So I will have to remove this HTML styling so that for us to see the effect of the CSS styling we're trying to use. So I've removed the HTML styling from the table. So now let's start with the CSS styling. So I think I will explain this better when we get to CSS on how to create the inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS. But just because for the table styling purpose, I'll be doing this. So we have what we call table. We want to add a border to each of our table, table, th, and td elements. So we want to set a border for them. Say border 1px, and let's say solid and black. So we try to set a styling for our table. So you can see the CSS styling, the effect of the CSS styling to our table, which is telling us go to our HTML, look into our HTML, any element you see as table, ch, and td. And of course, we have a table element, we have a what? A th element, and we have a td element in our HTML body. So the CSS is going to apply border what? Border 1px. This is the size of the border. This is the solid, also size of the border. The how thick, this is the thickness, this is the size of the border, and this is the color we want our border to look to take. We can set this to whatever color we wish to take effect to our table borders. So you can see the table has a red border, the th has a red border, and also the td, our td also has a red border. So this is a quick CSS styling for our table. So we can also do what? We can also add what? A border collapse to our table. Instead of seeing multiple borders inside on our table, we can make it a single border, so that it's going to show a single line. Is going to differentiate the table rows and the table columns and the table head together. So to do that, we have what we call an attribute that we call what? Border collapse. Border collapse, and we set it to collapse. So it's going to collapse all multiple border and set it to a single border. You can see this is more cleaner than the previous border we used. So we have what? A single border for each of the table rows and the table head. So that's what border collapse does. And you can also add padding to our what? To our table, to our th and td. So for us to do that, we can add what? You can create another styling that's going to reflect on our th and td only, because we don't want to add a padding to the table. So that's why we are differentiating, removing it from the second styling. So we have what we call the padding. All these will be explained better when we get to CSS, just for us to see the effects on how it's going to take on the table. We can add a padding to our table. You can see a padding has been added to our th and our td. So we have a 10 pixel on the top, 10 pixel by the right, 10 pixel at the bottom, and 10 pixel at the left. So it's going to take effect on every th we have in the table and every td we have in the table, because of what? We actually set it to th and td, which is the table head and table data. So that's what the padding will be reflecting on, only the table head and the table data. So before we move forward to the next topic, is there any question regarding what we've learned on tables? Or I should continue with that? Okay. In the absence of no question, we'll be moving to the words the next topic, which is the list. We have what we call list in HTML, as we also have list in Microsoft Word. We also have list in HTML. Lists are used to specify a list of informations. All lists may contain one or more list elements, and there are different types of HTML lists. Here, we have different types of HTML lists. The first one, we have what we call the order list or number list. This order list is what is going to do is going to itemize and mark with numbers. All the items we have in the list will be marked with number. That's what we call by the number order list or number list. We also have the unordered list or bullet list. Instead of using a number, the items will be itemized using a bullet. And we also have what we call description list or definition list. So let's start with the order list. So to start with the order list, we have the OL element, which means order list. OL, order list, is used to define a list, to list our items in order list or number list. So, and we have what we call the list li, which is the item list element, which is used to list our items. So you should note this order list, this li is going to be nested inside what OL. But this OL, we have to ramp up what our li. The OL we ramp up our li, which is going to define this list as an order list. So let's say we have an item 1. That's our first item. That's our first list item on the list. So we have let's create another list, which is item 2, which is our second list, and let's create another one called item 3, which is the third list we have in our third items we have in our list. So let's check these on the browser. You can see we have what item 1 as 1. This 1, 2, 3 are set automatically. You can see we didn't set it inside our code. So let me remove this one we have here, so it should be more clearer. So let's refresh and see this number was automatically set because we have our list ramp up in order list, which is the OL. That's the power of order list. And you can also change the type of list we want. We have what we call type for our list. Our list can be set in numbers, can be set in alphabets also. So we have a type as default, it will be set as number, but our type can also change how our list will be shown. So we have a type A. Let's see what this guy is going to do. You can see the number has been changed to A, B, C instead of 1, 2, 3. So that's the power of the type is our attribute to OL element, which is the number list element. So we have another type, which is called, you can also set it to uppercase instead of having a lowercase numbered. You can set it to uppercase. So our list will be listed in capital letter. So we also have the type I, which is the Roman numeral, Roman figure. So our list will be set to be itemized in Roman figure. So we have 1, 2, 3. And also you can also change it to uppercase also. We have the uppercase for Roman figure, we have lowercase for Roman figure, and that is going to be what? The capital I. That is going to be the capital I. So that's all about the other list. So no matter how many lists you have, let's say you have 100, if you have thousands of lists, they will all be numbered. They will all have, so you don't need to set your number. It will be set automatically. So far you have your list rammed with the OL elements. So if you change this, if you remove this, if you remove this type, at default, it will be set to what? 1, 2, 3. So we have 9 items in the list. That's about the other list. And we have what we call the what? The other list also, or bullet list. So is also similar, is more similar to what? The other list. The only difference is, let's copy this and replace. So the only difference is this is OL, another list use UL, which indicates what? Which indicates on other list. Check the browser, you see how this was displayed, because what? Another list shows in bullets or marked list. It uses bullets or marked to itemize our list. So you can see you have bullets for each of the list instead of numbers. So that's the difference between other lists and on other lists. And you also have the description list or definition list. The description list is to do what? Is to define our list in dictionary forms, which let's try to create an example on that. On description list, let me minimize this list item so that we don't have much on the screen. So the next one is description list, and the elements to define a description list is what? Is the DL element. And inside the DL elements, we have what we call description list. Doesn't use li, it uses what we call the DT element, which is called the what? Is used to define the times of the list. Like I said, the description list shows our list in dictionary forms. If you check your dictionary, for every terms, there is always a description, there's always a definition for every terms in the dictionary. So for every terms, it's going to be what? In bold letter, while the definition will be underneath the terms. So the DL define what? The start of the list, while the DT is what? Is what defines the term of the list. And we also have the DD, which define the definition or description of that list. So let's use this. Let's set a description terms for our list. We have Aries, and we have DD, which is what? The definitions of the list we've created. So what is Aries? Let's say one of what? Of the 12 horoscope. Aries is one of the 12 horoscope. So let's check how that's going to be shown on the browser. You can see the difference now. We have Aries, and we have one of the 12 horoscope underneath what? Underneath the Aries. So this is telling us this is a description list, and this definition is meant for what? For areas. You can see the difference between the order list or another list and what? Description list. So moving now, going forward, that's all about the what? The order list, table, order list, another list, and description list. So the next we'll be talking about is what? Let me comment this so that it doesn't take up our page on the browser. So we have the next thing we're talking about is HTML form. How to create a form in HTML. So to start a form, an HTML form is a section of a document which contains what? Controls such as text feed, password fields, checkbox, radio buttons, and submit buttons. I hope, I believe every one of us has filled a form on the browser before, and in every form we do have what? A text feed where we input our data, and also have a password feed where we input the password, our password credentials, and also have the checkbox, like a checkbox to check an items. And we also understand what we call the radio button, which is to select. An example of a radio button is used when you are asked to select between genders. If you select a gender, if you select male and you try to select female, it's going to deselect the male options you've chosen and select the female options. That's the powers of radio button. So only an option can be chosen at a particular time. But for a checklist, for a checkbox, you can choose as many options you want. And also we have the submit button. So to start, why we use HTML form? HTML form are required if you want to collect some data from the site visitors. Like you want to collect users' informations. For example, if a user purchase an items on the internet, he or she must fill the form such as your shipping address and your credit card details so that it can be sent to the given address. So that's a usefulness of having a form on the browser. It is used to collect what? Users' data so that it can be used while still on the on the page, like your user information, your user details when you are trying to register for a particular website. So to create a form, we have the form element. You have the form element, which is going to indicate that we are trying to create a form, which is going to tell our browser we're trying to create a form, and we have what we call the inputs. The inputs elements. Now, these inputs can be used for different purpose. It can be used as a password feed, can be used as a text feed also. So that's why we have what we call the type, which is telling us what type of input, what type of data are we trying to collect from the users. So as default, we do have text, the type text, which is telling us this form, this input should collect a text data. Let's see these on the browser. You can see we have an input design on the browser, an input control on the browser, which is help us to collect users data, the first name of the user. Let's say this input is meant for the first name, to enter the first name. So the user is going to enter the first name. And if there's another input which is meant for the last name, the user will input their last name. So and we have a type called number also. Type number, which is meant to to take only a number inputs. You can see there is a control here. You can see the type text doesn't have a control, but our browser understands this as a number because in our HTML we've set the type of the input to what? To number. So if a text, I've been trying to input a text to this input, it's not going to allow text like alphabet will not be allowed inside this input, but what? Only numbers will be allowed in this input. So you can see we also have a control which can be used to increment and decrement the numbers. So we also have the text area. So you can create as multiple inputs. Let's say this is meant for what? Let's leave this name attribute for now. We'll be using that going forward. It doesn't have an effect in on our inputs now. So let's say we have multiple inputs. Inputs type text. Type text. So and also we have what we call a placeholder, which can be used to tell the user what type of data should be entered inside these inputs. A placeholder of let's say it's a placeholder for it for this also. Phone number. So we set a placeholder for the first input, which is type text, which is username, and the second input, which is phone number. And see there's a placeholder which is shown temporarily inside the word inside the input feed, which tells the user what type of data should be entered inside these inputs. So if I start typing inside these inputs, the placeholder will be removed, will be erased automatically because it's meant to stay here temporarily pending the time the users enters a data inside the inputs inside the feed. So this is a username. So we type a username. The data we typed will replace the placeholder automatically. So for a phone number also, when you start typing a phone number, the phone number placeholder will be replaced by the data that was input inside the feed. So that's what placeholder does. And we have another form control which we use as we call text area. Text area. And see, this is a text area. Text area is more like input type text also, but the difference is text area allows us to collect allows us to enter data in multiple lines. You can see let's say you have a username here, this data can only be entered on a straight line, but for text area you can have your data in multiple lines. You can have it in multiple lines. So and you can also expand your text area. But for input, that is not allowed and that's not possible to do that on our input feed. So that's what another control for our form. So the text area is used to insert multiple line text in a form. The size of text area can be specified either using rows and columns. Yes, you can set your rows and column for a particular text area. Let's say this text area, you can set rows, you can set 10 rows and columns, say 20, 200 columns. See the effect. And see, we have what? 10 rows. This is, if we are meant to calculate this is the first row, second row, third row, and up to 10. We have it in what? In vertical form. It's going to be in vertical form. Why the what? These columns will be in what? Will be in sorry. The columns will be in horizontal form, which is the 200 pixel. So let's reduce the 200 to 20. Now we have it in 10 rows and 20 columns. Our text area has been set to have 10 rows and 20 columns whenever the browser loads. And also you can expand it. But whenever you refresh your browser, it comes to default, which is the 10 rows and 20 columns in which you've set for your text area. So the next thing we'll be talking about is what? Is the password field. We have the input type password, which tells our browser to what? To encrypt, to hide the data that was being input inside this feed. So let's try to input a password and see all the data that are entered are what are hidden. It's only the users that understand what was typed inside the controls. So that is the powers of what? Of having a password type password. It's what? It's hiding the data, the text that was being input inside the what? Inside the input control. So that's the basic input control we have in forms. We have the input type text, input type number, we have a text area, we have a what? We have password, and we also have another one that we call what? The file, which is used to add file. See, which is used to let's try to break this down using the VIR elements. Let's try to break down our so we have these in different rows. So this is the first name, phone number, these are text area, these are password, and this is the type file, which is used to do what? To add file, which is used to add file. You can add an image. You can add an image. You can see the image that was selected has been added to this control, which can be used to upload. Let's say this is meant for your profile picture, so you can actually use this to do what? To upload your profile picture to your profile using the type file. You can also use this to upload videos, audios. You can use it to select any kind of file, PDF. You can use the input type file to do that. That's what is used to upload our files to the server. And the what we call the radio button and the checkbox. Let's talk about the radio button and the checkbox, which is the input type radio. So the radio button uses the what? the name attribute. This is where the name attribute is being used, because all the name attributes in type file, type password, and type number, type text are not useful for now, are not being used with HTML. That is used to, let's say, let's say you are trying to use JavaScript, then that's when you make reference to your what, the name attribute. But for your input type radio, you can, the name password, the name attribute is what, is compulsory, because it helps us to indicate what type of what type of options we are trying to choose. So we have what, a gender. We are trying to select between two gender. So this name is going to do call what, the gender name. So we have to set a value for our inputs, which is male, the first gender. And also we have what, another gender, which is female. So we must have the same value in our name for both male and female, because what, these are categorized under gender. We're trying to select between these options, which means a user can only select between a male and a female. So what makes it possible is what, the name attribute, which is what, which tells our browser that these two are categorized together and only one options can be selected at a particular time. So if we refresh that, we have what we called, okay, sorry, I didn't specify the male here and female. Now I can see we have the male options and the female options. When I choose the male and I try to choose female, the male option will be deselected while the female options will be chosen. So try to choose the male again, the female options will be selected. What makes this possible was the name, the name attributes, which are the same thing. Let's try to rename this. Let me remove ER from this and see the effect on how the names attributes works. If I try to select me, select female, both options will be chosen because they are under different categories. They don't have the same names. So that's what makes it possible for me to be able to select both male and female at the same times. So let's change it back. Let's say they have the same, sorry. Let's change it back to having the same name value. And when I reload, try to select male, try to select female. The male options will be deselected, while the female will be chosen. So that's how radio button works. So in let's say in aspect like want to select multiple options, that's when we have the checkbox control. Instead of using the radio, you can use the checkbox. You use the checkbox control for that. So we have the input type. Set this to checkbox. We set this to checkbox. So name, let's say you are trying to select cricket, and value will be what? Let's have value as cricket also. So we have the label. We can have a label for each of what? For each of our input type. We have a label which is going to indicate the kind of checkbox we have. This label means this cricket is meant for this input type. This is giving what our input type checkbox a name. Is used to identify the types, the inputs that owns the controls. So if we refresh this, as we have what crickets as an option, let's add, sorry, a break line to this. So we have crickets as an option. So you can check your items using the checkbox. You can check multiple options as you want, unlike the radio button options, which allows you to only check only one options. So that's the difference between the radio and the checkbox type control. So that's what we'll be having under the HTML forms. We have the form. Every control must be in between the opening tags and the closing tag of form. Must be between the form opening tag and closing tag. Must be ramp up with the form opening tag and close tag. So you have the input type text, which is used to enter text values or text data. We have the input type number, which only accepts numbers as inputs. And we have the text area, which can be used to enter to accept either numbers or letters in multiple lines. While we have the input type password, which also hidden the value that was entered inside the input feed. And we have the type file, which is used to select the kind of file you wanted to upload, either image, videos, audios, PDF file, any kind of file. This can be used to select it from our systems and upload to the server. And we have the type radio, which is used to do to select an options from multiple options. Only a single option will be chosen from a multiple options, while the checkbox allow us to do to select multiple options. So from what we've discussed so far, is there anyone that has a question or anything before we move further? Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's a question that says, what is the placeholder used for? The placeholder is used to indicate what types of data that should be entered inside a particular feed, and is what is placed there temporarily until the real data is being input. For example, now we have inside this first input, we have a placeholder called username, which is telling the user that a username must be enter inside this feed. That's why we have username as a placeholder here. So when I try to input a text, the placeholder will be enriched, and the real text, the real value will be replaced with the placeholder. It's just there temporarily, just for the user to know, it's not making sense having an empty input without the user having an idea of what to input inside the feed. But this placeholder is going to tell the user, enter your username inside this feed. If it is first name, if you change it to first name, you change this to first name, the placeholder is going to change to first name also. It's going to change the first name. So this is going to tell the user your first name should be what? Should be input inside this feed. So that's please guys, I will be having the class will be would been up to 2 hours today because there is a kind of what's function. My system is getting low now, and you can see we started the class late. And if there is any question you guys needed to ask, you can actually ask in the group. But before we round up for today, is there anyone that asks anything to ask? And also, an assignment will be dropped inside the group also based on what you've learned. So, Mr. Frederick,
Sir, in your form, you wrote name equal to the first name and the entire name. Like, what is it
yeah.
used for? If it's already written inside in between the opening and closing tag of the if it's already written inside the opening and closing tag.
Do you mean this first name?
No. In your like this name now in your input type,
Yes.
like the password name, you wrote name. Like, what is it
Okay,
used for?
this name, like I said, this name doesn't have any purpose for now.
Okay.
It doesn't have it doesn't reflect on what is being shown on the browser. So
Oh,
there's no purpose for this name for now. If you as we move forward, let's say if you are able to get to JavaScript, that's when the names will be what will be useful. But for now, the names only have effect on what on the radio input type. Only the names, only the radio input type uses the name attribute for now. But other input control doesn't need the name attribute for now.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So is there any other question before we round up for the day? Okay, Mr. Samuel.
Yes, sir. So my question is concerning the attendance. Should there be attendance for this class or has it passed already?
Uh, okay, the attendance. There will be no attendance for this class because if I start to take attendance now, my system might shut down. But I'm going to join my phone. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's try. I'll send the attendance link. I'll send the attendance link now. Someone is raising up their hands. Okay, Mr. Abdulaziz. Okay. I'll send the attendance link and give you a minute, some minutes. Let me try to get the link for the attendance. I've dropped the attendance link in the in chat, so you can all click on and log in your attendance now. Now, okay, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, sir. I want to ask, there are some websites that they do brief introduction about their maybe product contact or something their homepage. Can we use a table to do that?
A brief, what? Come again, sir.
Like a brief introduction about maybe the product or what the company they're all about. Just a brief
Yes,
introduction about the product. Can we use a table to do that?
yes. It depends on the product they are trying to display, and if the design of the product requires for them to use a table, of course they can use a table, but table can't just be used anyhow. A table can be used when you intend to have your items in rows and columns. That's when a table can actually be used. You can't just use it anyhow for a design. There are a bunch of elements in HTML that can be used for a certain purpose. But the main purpose of using a table is what? Is to do what? Is to have your items in rows and columns, just to have them in sections. That's what a table is actually meant for.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So is there any other person that has a question? I'll be dropping the assignment for us for this day 2 inside the in chat now, so that you can actually go through that and submit before the deadlines. So the assignment has been dropped and is meant for us to design a table, a sing a simple what? A simple login and registration page. The link is not working. Let me check that again. Sorry. But the link is actually working here. Can you try it again? Try to refresh your browser. It's working in my end, sir. It's working here. You can try to refresh when you load the link. It's going to show a page for you to enter your email so that you can log in your attendance. We are very sorry for the inconvenience seen today. So something came up, so that's why Mr. Daniel was unable to attend to you guys. So I actually have to substitute for that, and unfortunately, we are closed already, and my system is not doesn't last for 2 hours. It can only take up to 1 hour. So that's why we're stopping our class here today. Yeah, sorry about that. But if there's anything you need to ask that, if there's anything that is unclear, you can actually drop that in the group, and I will attend to that. So we really appreciate you for your times, the consistency. Thank you so much. The link is actually working here. Let me check that again. So after clicking the submit button, it's showing what? Okay, let me check to that. So you can try to resubmit again. Has anyone be able to submit the attendance? Okay. Okay, if you are getting error while submitting, just try to refresh and input your email again, then click on submit. It's going to register your attendance. So if you've submitted your assignments, you can actually, I'm actually waiting for those that were unable to submit the attendance. So if you are successfully submitted, you can actually leave because the session has already ended. So I'm actually waiting for those that was unable to submit the attendance.
Please, Mr. Shahid, I don't have access to attendance. Please, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
The
Sorry,
link has
because
been
I'm on
dropped.
the road.
The link has been dropped in the chat, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir?
thank you. Okay, we can go now. The class has ended. Abi.
Yes, yes. We'll be meeting next
Okay,
week, Saturday again.
thank you.
All right, sir. Thanks for your time. All right, Mr. Joseph. Thank you for your time, Mr. Frederick and Mr. Abdulaziz.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.